as near as we're going to get.
Broken on the videos I've seen.
I did.
You did too.
We're off to the radio. All right, here we go, people. Welcome to Academic Challenge. These are the What? Come on, you moron. Good Lord. I was on a roll.
I thought it was a good car. It's a new competitor to Apple.
Now it's going to be all screwed up. All right. We're ready? You sure? You're not lying to me? All right, here we go. Welcome to Academic Challenge. These are the semifinals. My name is Jim Gifford, your host and moderator today, featuring teams from Berrien Springs and St. Joseph. Academic Challenge features scholastic competition involving high schools from Berrien and Van Buren counties and is sponsored by Waterville Lake Public Schools, Lake Michigan College, Lakeshore Public Schools, and by Chemical Bank. First, we meet the teams, so we'll start with St. Joe. Identify yourselves and your grade.
Trevor Greisinger, senior.
Fungbo Yun,
senior. Ryan Faulkner, junior.
Patrick Fisher, junior.
And your coach, not here, but ought to recognize somebody anyway.
Gary Adder.
All right. And from Berrien Springs.
Joseph Johnson, junior.
Corey Buchholz, senior.
Kelly Staub, sophomore.
Matthew Reeves, junior.
Who's the acting captain, Corey?
I am.
And your coach, or coaches?
The wonderful Virginia Shum.
The wonderful Virginia Shum. All right, here we are, and here are the basic rules. First and second halves, we announce the value of each question before it's asked. You'll have 10 seconds to answer, 15 if it's a math question. When you press your button, please wait to be recognized. No consultation. There will be in the 60-second round later. I'll be scorekeeping and judging, and Bill Klein is our co-judge, and we'll be asking the questions tonight. Is everybody ready? Yep. Here we go, Bill, whenever you are ready.
All right, for 5 points. How do you spell conspicuous?
Trevor, St. Joe.
Conspicious.
Incorrect.
Berrien Springs. Any takers? Kelly?
Conspicious.
Incorrect. Everybody was adding an I. Conspicuous. For 10 points. In the 1960s, linear alkali benzene became the main ingredient in detergents because it has what eco-quality?
Patrick, St. Joseph.
Biodegradable.
That is correct for 10 points. For 20 points, Great Britain, England, and the United Kingdom are not synonymous terms. Explain the difference between Great Britain and the United Kingdom.
Trevor, St. Joe.
Great Britain refers to the Isle of Britannia, and the United Kingdom refers to its other sovereign parts, including the Northern Ireland territory.
Incorrect.
Berrien Springs, you want to give that a shot? Joseph?
Great Britain is the country, and the United Kingdom is all the countries inside of Great Britain.
Incorrect.
You need to be a little more specific.
A little bit more
that,
specific. The United Kingdom consists of England, Scotland, Wales, and Northern Ireland.
Oh.
Great Britain consists of England, Scotland, and Wales. Okay. For 15 points, Omoo, O-M-O-O, a narrative of adventures in the South Seas, was written by what American novelist famous for his maritime tales?
Fungbo, St. Joe.
Melville.
That is correct for 15 points. A math question for 20 points. What is the area of a triangle formed by the line x plus 3y equals 6 and the x and the y axis?
Right at the buzzer. Trevor, St. Joe.
6.
That is correct for 20 points. For 15 points, name the 2 nations that, along with Prussia, were involved in the 18th century partitions of Poland.
Fongbo, St. Joe.
Austria and Hungary.
Incorrect.
Berrien Springs, 5 seconds. Joseph.
Austria, Hungary, and Russia.
That's correct answer for 15 points. For 20 points, Beethoven composed the opera Fidelio. Who composed the opera Tosca?
Trevor, St. Joe.
Puccini.
That is correct for 20 points. For 5 points, its landmarks include the Virgin River, West Temple, Cathedral Mountain, Angel's Landing, the Great...
Joseph, Berrien Springs.
Jerusalem.
Incorrect.
Finish.
The Great White Throne, 3 patriarchs. Its name is Hebrew for sanctuary. Name this national park in Utah.
And St. Joe, it's to you. Patrick?
Zion.
That is correct for 5 points. For 10 points, pepsinogen, pepsin, hydrochloric acid, and mucus are the main ingredients of what fluid of the...
Trevor, St. Joe.
Bile.
Incorrect. Of the digestive system.
Berrien Springs. Callie?
Stomach acid.
Incorrect. The gastric juice is what we're looking for. For 5 points. What 2 numbers come next in the following series? 1, 6, 2, 7, 3, 8.
Corey, Berrien Springs.
4, 9.
That is correct for 5 points. For 5 points, what continent did James Cook claim for King George III in
Joseph, Berrien Springs.
Australia.
That is correct for 5 points. For 20 points, who became the first 2 African Americans to face off for the Best Actor Oscar in 2002?
Trevor, St. Joe.
Morgan Freeman and Will Smith.
Incorrect.
Berrien Springs. Joseph.
Eddie Murphy and Will Smith.
Incorrect. Everybody had Will Smith right, but it was Denzel Washington. For 20 points, employees shall have the right to bargain collectively through representatives of their own choosing, and to engage in concerted activities for the purpose of collective bargaining or other mutual protection. I've just quoted from which act of Congress?
Patrick, St. Joe.
The Fair Labor Standards Act.
Incorrect.
Berrien Springs. 5 seconds. Time.
It's the National Labor Relations Act. Very close to the other one. Math question for 15 points. Find the 18th term of the sequence 2, 6, 10, 14.
Patrick, St. Joe.
38.
Incorrect.
Berrien Springs. Corey.
74.
Incorrect. It's 70. For 5 points, the Pilgrims arrived at Cape Cod in what year?
Trevor, St. Joe.
1620.
That is correct for 5 points. For 20 points, his works expressed a preoccupation with the moral imperatives of the individual. Until his death in 1951, he was a leading liberal in French politics. He won the 1947 Nobel Prize for Literature for works such as The Immoralist and The Counterfeiters. Name him.
That's time.
Andre Gide. What a guy. For 20 points, what is the name of the device made up of a spiral tube coiled around a shaft in...
Ryan, St. Joe.
A screw.
In your mic.
I'm sorry.
A screw.
More specific.
Phillips screw.
Incorrect.
Did you finish the...
No.
Okay.
Finish the question.
Finish the question.
About a shaft and used to lift water for irrigation.
Berrien Springs, 5 seconds. Corey.
Irrigation screw.
Archimedes screw. For 5 points. He was an old man who fished alone in the skiff in the Gulf Stream and he had gone 84 hours now.
Trevor, St. Joe.
Santiago.
Incorrect. Without taking a fish. What novel by what author begins with this line?
Callie, Berrien Springs.
The Old Man and the Sea by Ernest Hemingway.
That is correct for 5 points. For 15 points, what capital D, capital C, DC expression refers to all the envoys, ambassadors, and such in residence at a national capital?
Matt, Berrien Springs.
District Committee?
Incorrect.
St. Joseph. 5 seconds. Trevor.
VIP.
Incorrect. DC expression, diplomatic corps. For 10 points, if you've tried to dig up any dandelions lately, you've noticed that the plant has a single male root going straight down. What are such roots called?
Trevor, St. Joe.
Simple roots.
Incorrect.
Berrien Springs. 5 seconds. Callie.
Primary root.
Taproot.
Next question, final question of the first half.
For 20 points. Written in an elaborate French form, this poem epitomizes the philosophy of living until death. Do not go gentle into that good night. Old age should burn and rave at close of day. Rage, rage against the dying of the light. Who wrote it?
Trevor, St. Joe.
Thomas.
That's correct for 20 points.
Come on, Thomas.
Well, that'll wrap up the first half of today's academic challenge between St. Joe and Berrien Springs in our first semifinal of the day. We'll be back with a score in the 62nd round after this on WSJM, the news and talk of Michigan's Great Southwest.
Science.
Clearly.
What is that?
Oh.
They couldn't make up their mind.
Wait.
There are only 7 continents.
No, there's what are the categories? What are the categories?
Greenland's a continent.
Read them.
Well, no one gave it to me. Continents. Let's go with continent. We gotta go with continents.
We're not.
Dude,
It'll be like,
no.
what continent is
What
the
continent is
people
North,
who
what continent
follow
is America on?
That makes sense.
No, continent's gonna be so. What continent is America on?
We're not doing
What
that.
continent is mostly
We are
ice?
not doing that.
What continent is its own country?
Yeah, right.
Those are gonna be the questions.
Yeah, I was trying to look what continent that was in the mountain range on.
Exactly.
That's exactly what it would be like.
Oh, yeah. I know. Tars. Come on, Tars.
Wait, we're really no. Last time we
There's
went,
no
last
time
time,
for
last time we went with elements, it was like really long questions. We didn't have time to get
Yeah.
them all.
That was
Like
unfortunate.
with science, it's gonna be like a long like who discovered, and then some long thing, and then by doing this experiment, we're not gonna have time.
What was so easy?
Continents is gonna be the
Science.
easiest.
Let's okay, fine. I don't think any of us choosing poets.
What if I think the easiest out of the three?
Yeah.
I mean, what if like picking up $5 is one of the questions, and they throw us $5 on the ground?
Poetry.
That seems pretty easy.
Patrick, do you see what there's a table in there?
What was it?
What if they just said
World
it?
geography.
All right, people.
If only we had Ron
Here we go.
Johnson here.
Why isn't he here? Can we nail
At the end of the first half, the score, St. Joe 95, Berrien Springs 30. And we move on to the 62nd round. Teams, you have 3 categories to choose from. We give you 60 seconds to answer as many of them as you can. Each is worth 10 points. There's a 20-point bonus if you answer all 10 within the time limit. You are encouraged to consult with one another at this point. The answers must come from the team captain. You may and should pass if you don't know the answer, so you don't chew up all your time. After the minute's up, the opposing team has a chance to answer questions missed, passed, or not gotten to yet. First team, the folks from Berrien Springs trailing at the moment. You'll have your first choice of these categories. They are poets, science, and continents. And your choice is?
We're going to go with continents.
They're going with continents. And, Bill, do we need to set this up at all?
Nope, there's no setup
Seems
here.
pretty obvious to the whole crew, I think.
Okay.
60 seconds on the clock. Here we go.
Of the 7 continents on Earth, which one is the farthest south?
Antarctica.
Correct. Which of these continents extends farthest south? South America, Australia, or Africa?
Australia.
Incorrect. Identify the continent with the largest area.
Asia.
Correct. What continent is Martinique considered part of?
Europe.
Incorrect. What continent is known as the Dark Continent?
Europe.
Incorrect. What two continents does the Strait of Gibraltar separate?
Africa and Europe.
That's correct. Russian land is located in what two continents?
Europe and Asia.
Correct. What continent has the lowest high points?
Australia.
Correct. Mount Erebus, the world's southernmost active volcano, is located on what continent?
South America.
Incorrect.
I have 5 correct, for 50 points. And we will reset the clock, and we'll turn the category over to the folks from St. Joe to get the ones that were missed, passed on, or we didn't get to. Everybody at the ready?
Yep.
St. Joe?
Guys.
Here we go.
Guys.
Trevor.
Trevor?
Right?
Okay.
Here we go. 60 seconds.
Which of these continents extends further south? South America, Australia, or Africa?
South America.
Correct. What continent is Martinique considered part of?
North America.
Correct. What continent is known as the Dark Continent?
Africa.
Correct. Mount Erebus, the world's southernmost active volcano, is located on what continent?
Antarctica.
Correct. The European Space Agency's satellite launch site is found on what continent?
Is it like that place in Asia? Like the Kazakhstan part? Yeah. Asia.
Incorrect. South America.
4 correct, for a total of 40 points for St. Joe. And we will stay with St. Joe then and tee up the remaining 2 categories in the 60-second round, and they are poets and science. And St. Joe, what do you like?
We'll do science, please.
They're going to do science. All right, then.
No setup on this one
No
either.
setup here. All right. 60 seconds on the clock. Here we go.
What metal is the best for conducting electricity?
Copper. Copper.
Incorrect. The second best conductor is the most widely used because it's cheaper.
Copper.
Correct. What's the term for outward flow of water following high tide?
Osmosis. No. Neap tide.
Incorrect. At what 2 points does the Earth's axis of rotation meet the surface?
The North and South Pole. The poles.
Correct. The invisible phase of the moon is called what?
New moon.
What is the queen bee's only job?
To lay eggs.
How many atoms are there in a molecule of water?
3.
Correct. In what particularly cold form is most of the carbon dioxide in the United States produced?
Dry ice. Dry ice.
Correct. Night sight telescopes measure heat radiation in what range?
Infrared.
What kind of image does a hologram slide produce?
3D.
Correct.
I have 8 correct. 8 correct for a total of 80 points. And we'll reset the clock and turn the category over to Berrien Springs to see if they have got the 2 remaining. And whenever you're ready.
What metal is the best for conducting electricity?
Tungsten.
Silver. And what's the term for the outward flow of water following high tide?
Spring tide.
Ebb tide.
Ebb tide. No extra points for Berrien Springs as we wrap up the 60-second round. That ends it. We'll check the scores and conclude the game next here on WSJM, the second half, the news and talk of Michigan's Great Southwest.
Are we doing the halftime report?
Yes.
After this, yes.
Yeah, robotics is Friday and Saturday. Tell people to come.
What is it called?
It's the first robotics St. Joseph District event. Some people could it's on this Friday and Saturday at St. Joseph High School.
Thank you. Bye.
All right, what do we got here?
Yeah, it was on the Facebook. No, it was somehow. Mr. Rick sent me the email. I don't think it's I have Dominic sent it. I have the email. No, it's not. Hold on, K-Rick. Dominic Thomas, Hannah Stark. And Seal. Yeah, but he's in 8th grade. No.
Siobhan. Oh, Siobhan. That's a girl.
As national scholastic medal winners.
Top of the morning to you. Hey, this will be broadcast on Sunday morning. It says top of the morning to you.
Oh, yeah, that's awesome.
All right.
Corey, can you do it?
I can't. I can do it so very sad.
No, you can do Irish.
We have a key club governor.
What does that even mean? Sahana is the key club governor of Michigan.
Sahana.
Hari Krishna.
Hari Krishna.
Hari Krishna.
Hari Krishna.
Hari
Yeah.
Hari Krishna. Krishna. Sahana.
We're good?
Krishna has been elected as the governor of Key Club. It's the great state of Michigan.
All right, people, let's bring it back. Here we go.
I don't have any discretion.
The score at the end of the 62nd round, St. Joe 215, Berrien Springs 80. Let's find out a little bit about what's happening at each of our schools here in this particular match. First from Berrien Springs, Captain Corey, deferring to co-captain Kelly.
Greetings from Berrien Springs High School. Spring sports are getting ready to start, and the athletes are eagerly anticipating the season. Congratulations to our concert band for their Division I rating at the MSBOA Regional District Band Festival held at LMC. Not only did they receive a Division I, but they received straight ones from all judges. Congratulations to Matt Smith on his second place finish at the state powerlifting competition, and also Philip Paya on his third place finish as well. Parent-teacher conferences will be held next March 25th and 26th in the high school gym. We would like to wish everyone a happy St. Patrick's Day from the home of the Shamrocks. Before we close tonight, we would like to thank the radio station of WSJM FM 94.9 and their sponsors, Chemical Bank and LMC, Lakeshore Public Schools, and Waterville Community Schools for sponsoring this event.
Thank you, Kelly. And from St. Joe, Captain Trevor.
Today you'll be hearing from our honorary deputy co-captain, Nick Walsh.
Very cool. Nick?
Thank you very much for having us here today. We have a lot of great, exciting things going on at St. Joseph High School. One of those being this weekend, actually, the first robotics team is having their district tournament at St. Joseph High School. So teams from all over the state of Michigan will be coming to our gym to compete in their exciting, fast-paced robotics competition. Also going on at St. Joseph, we have a few students who are being nationally recognized for their art and their writing. That includes Dominique Thomas, who is a senior, and she's being recognized for art, and Hannah Starkey, who's also senior, who's being recognized for her writing. They were both recognized as National Scholastic Medal winners, and their work is going to be featured at Carnegie Hall.
Wow.
In New York City, the real one. Now, another exciting event we have going on at St. Joseph. Next week, the entire student body will be participating in an event called Kids Against Hunger, where we will be packaging 25,000 meals for children around the world who are facing starvation. So that's happening next Thursday at St. Joe. All of our spring sports are beginning to kick off, including baseball and track, and we're looking forward to them having great seasons. And last but not least, we have a member of Key Club at St. Joseph. Her name is Sahana Har Christian, who has been elected as the governor for Key Club for the great state of Michigan. St. Joseph would like to thank you guys for having us today, and thank our sponsors, Lake Michigan College and Chemical Bank, as well as Waterville Public Schools and the Lakeshore Lancers. And good luck.
Yeah. Thanks, Nick. You're hearing from one of the substitutions, so why don't you step back up to the mic there and at least identify yourself.
My name is Nick Walsh, and I have substituted in here today.
All right. And from Berrien Springs, substitution across the way, you are?
Jessica Chin, senior.
Very nice. Thank you. Welcome. Let's wrap it up. As we begin the second half of today's academic challenge between St. Joseph and Berrien Springs, the first of our two semifinal matches today. Bill, let's get started on this second half, shall we?
All right. For 10 points, what term, which mentions a tuber important to Ireland, refers to someone or something that is relatively...
Corey, Berrien Springs.
Couch potato.
Incorrect. Relatively unimportant.
St. Joe. Trevor.
Potato peeler.
Small potatoes. For 15 points, Most aliens granted permanent resident status in our country are required to carry cards which bear their photography.
Ryan, St. Joe.
Green card.
That is correct for 15 points. For 10 points, Subtle is the title character of a Ben Jonson play. He sells astrological forecasts and attempts to transmute base metals into gold. Name the play.
Trevor, St. Joe.
The Alchemist.
That is correct for 10 points. For 20 points, how many subsets does a set of 5 elements have?
Fongbo, St. Joe.
120.
Incorrect.
Berrien Springs. Any takers? 5 seconds. Time.
32. For 5 points, how do you spell reconciliation?
Fongbo, St. Joe.
RECONCILIATION.
That is correct for 5 points. For 10 points, the last U.S. president born in a log cabin. Only one man served in the office for a shorter period. Before entering politics, he fought for the Union in the Civil War, rising to the rank of Major General. When U.S. Grant, James Berrien, and John Sherman were deadlocked as favorite candidates, the Republicans made him their candidate in 1880. Who was he?
Trevor, St. Joe.
Martin Van Buren.
Incorrect.
Berrien Springs, 5 seconds. Callie?
William Howard Taft.
Incorrect. The ever-popular James Garfield. A math question for 15 points. 10 grams of a solute are dissolved in 100 grams of water. Assume that the molecular mass of the solute is 50 grams per mole and calculate the molality of the solution.
Trevor, St. Joe.
2 molals.
That is correct for 15 points. I didn't even know if that was English. But for 10 points. As an expressive art, this art form consists of organizing ideas in terms of line and color on a two-dimensional plane. What is it called?
Fongbo, St. Joe.
Realism.
Incorrect.
Berrien Springs. Joseph.
Abstract.
Both forms of the answer, which is painting. For 5 points. I don't write them, folks. I just read them. For 5 points. In the Old Testament, Jacob's son traveled to Egypt to get this grain. In the New Testament, this grain was sown in the parable of the sower. What is it?
Trevor, St. Joe.
Corn.
Incorrect.
Berrien Springs. Any grains? Corey.
Wheat.
That's correct.
There you go.
For 5 points. For 15 points, Gabriel Garcia Marquez was the 1982 Nobel Prize winner for literature. From which South American country does he hail?
Trevor, St. Joe.
Chile.
Incorrect.
Joseph, Berrien Springs.
Argentina.
Colombia. For 5 points. It was believed that this number controlled the planets because there were this many compass directions. Leopold Bloom, in James Joyce's Ulysses, kept remembering this same number because it is the acceleration of falling bodies in feet per second per second.
Trevor, St. Joe.
32.
That is correct for 5 points. For 5 points, he was born February 22nd, 1732. He served as a messenger from Governor Dinwiddie in the French and Indian War. On July 15th, 1775, he was chosen commander of the Continental Army.
Nick, St. Joe.
George Washington.
That is correct for 5 points. A math question for 10 points. If x squared equals 9x, then x equals...
Corey, Berrien Springs.
9.
That is correct for 10 points. For 10 points, spell the singular of paparazzi.
Fongbo, St. Joe.
P-A-P-A-R-A-Z-Z-O.
That is correct for 10 points. Paparazzo. For 10 points. In November, the Senate blocked the bill that would have ended what agency's bulk collection of Americans?
Trevor, St. Joe.
The NSA.
That is correct for 10 points. For 15 points, Jonathan Gruber, the man criticized for his comments about the stupidity of the American voter, helped develop what law?
Trevor, St. Joe.
The Affordable Health Care Act.
That is correct for 15 points. For 5 points, the U.S. and 5 other nations failed to meet a deadline and extended negotiations over what country's nuclear program?
Ryan, St. Joe.
Iran.
That is correct for 5 points. For 5 points, Afghanistan signed an agreement with the U.S. and what international organization to allow troops to remain in the country?
Ryan, St. Joe.
NATO.
That is correct for 5 points. For 15 points, the Attorney General of what border state led the lawsuit against President Obama?
Joseph, Berrien Springs.
Texas.
That is correct for 15 points. For 5 points, you may be running Windows 8 now, but your next version?
Joseph, Berrien Springs.
Windows 10.
That is correct for 5 points. For 5 points, what accusation was denied by the Super Bowl-bound New Jersey Patriots?
Trevor, St. Joe.
That they deflated the footballs in the American Championship game.
That is a correct answer for 5 points. For 10 points, what noun can be formed from the initial letters of the 4 Great Lakes shared by the U.S. and Canada?
Fongbo, St. Joe.
Sorry.
It's a noun.
Incorrect.
Callie, Berrien Springs.
Home.
That is correct for 10 points. It could be shoe, hose, or hose. So, for 15 points, Shakespeare's As You Like It and Sir Philip Sidney's Arcadia are examples of what genre of literature that extols the ideal life of shepherds and human innocence in nature?
Trevor, St. Joe.
Pastoralism.
That is correct for 15 points. For 10 points, Morgan Freeman has been in 2 movies directed by Clint Eastwood. Name either one of them.
Ryan, St. Joe.
Shawshank Redemption.
Incorrect.
Berrien Springs. Any takers? 5 seconds. Joseph?
God, Gran Torino?
Incorrect. The Unforgiven and the $1 Million Baby. For 10 points, who wrote, I have a truly marvelous proof of this proposition, which this margin is too narrow to contain?
Fongbo, St. Joe.
Phil. That is correct for 10 points. For 10 points, it is no longer a government of the people, by the people, and for the people, but a government of Wall Street, by Wall Street, and for Wall Street. Mary Lease said that in 1890, referring to the huge business monopolies of the era known as what?
Corey, Berrien Springs.
The Gilded Age.
Incorrect.
St. Joe, 5 seconds.
Trust.
Nick?
Trust.
That is a correct answer for 10 points.
Next question, final question of the second half.
All right, well then we're going to skip that 5.1. Go 10 points. The longest filibuster in Senate history couldn't stop this bill. Its Title III allowed the Attorney General to file lawsuits to force school districts to integrate.
Trevor, St. Joe.
The Civil Rights Act.
That is correct for 10 points.
That, gentlemen and ladies, wraps up the second half of today's academic challenge. We'll tabulate the scores, announce the winners next on WSJM, the news and talk of Michigan's Great Southwest.
Good job, guys.
2 questions, Nick.
Yeah, nice
Yeah.
job. That's
Better than clues.
It's more output than clues ever put. Because clues is like
Good
on
job.
the team.
Yeah.
Springs, you guys have
I mean,
done
he was
well
on the
all
team for
year.
like 3 years, but he was
Great
I
job.
need your charity.
They've done a great job.
Yeah, Homer always has these like mock solutions.
You disappointed me. I was
to
thinking
episodes about raising something to the 12th power, so it's pretty cool.
Stay sitting.
But you did this last time. You stood up before you gave the last time. Because I knew that quote, so I looked it up. Oh, like I don't know if you saw one article a few weeks about like
I don't want to be
was,
spelling it
predicting the massive Higgs boson like twice.
So I opened it up
Because all the people like originally were Harvard.
They were doing
He had this thing for the Higgs boson that was like 200
That's amazing.
We don't have to either.
Well, we're not going to be here.
Exactly.
Like, they would actually.
So, Nick, you want to fight me academically again?
I think I did a fine job.
You did a very good job.
Oh God, why? I can't see.
I was about to. All those political ones came up.
Yeah.
Damn it.
Current events. We're good at current events, yeah.
Now I really.
Current events, I'm going to read the news, so it's like.
Yes! Victory!
That's where you get all this stuff.
I didn't. Great mouse.
Morning edition. Andrews University Classical Music.
Oh, do you listen to that?
All right, peoples.
No, I never.
Here we
listen
go.
Anymore. They only play like.
Let's wrap her up.
Yeah, exactly.
We're back on WSJM's Academic Challenge to announce today's winner in our semifinals and to thank our sponsors. The winners by a score of 365 to 125, the team from St. Joe. How about a nice hand for St. Joe? Congratulations. Thank you all for joining us. Thank you, Berrien Springs, on WSJM's Academic Challenge, brought to you by Lakeshore Public Schools, Lake Michigan College, Waterville Lake Public Schools, and by Chemical Bank. Up next, the other semifinals between Lakeshore and Coloma on Academic Challenge. Thank you, folks. Thank you.
Good job, both teams.
Much appreciated. See you guys next week.